EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to a new week on Bears 365, a Monday edition of the show here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, Johnny Mack, coming to you live from a different location for the week, but we'll be here all week nonetheless. Johnny Mack, how you doing this Monday morning, brother?
Doing well. You're better off than me. We're in the doom of gloom of South Jersey. A little bit of rain, back to being cold. It's that time of year. Hopefully we can turn the corner at some point.
No good weather up there this weekend?
No.
Last weekend was
last weekend
awesome
was nice.
up there. It's one of my favorite times of the year, though, when the weather does turn, and you get some of that first couple of days. But now it's hot down here in Florida, in South Florida, where I am, Southwest Florida. But John, plenty of stuff to talk about. We got a good week shows here as we get closer and closer to the NFL draft. What are we, 17 days out from that first round, that Thursday night? So it's moving right along, Johnny Mack, and a couple more top 30 visits commence for the Eagles. So we got those to talk about, but a great weekend of sports, John. Did you happen to catch the Final Four games or any of the Phillies games or anything? Because I had a busy weekend with some family matters, but I did.
Yeah, I was taking care of everything falling apart here on me, but no, I didn't see. I did get the reaction of people, which the NCAA tournament I find amusing. Upset. Yeah. I'm like, it's 1 versus 1 and 1 versus 1. There are no upsets.
Yeah.
I can't believe Duke lost. I got a lot of that. I'm like, really? Because I think the other team's better.
But if you watch that game, Bill.
No, they had a big comeback. But I mean, talent-wise, talent perspective. So nobody would have surprised me if they won that. Dawn Staley got racked, South Carolina in the women's tournament.
Yeah, so I didn't see that game, but I just saw the final score.
Yeah, UConn back on top there. And then the Phillies beat the greatest team in baseball history on the series. And Philly fans, we'll talk about that. Chip Kerr's going to be on. They made. Well, you can tell it's spelled out. They treat every game. I got this text chain with a bunch of Phillies. They treat every game like it's an Eagles game, like it's life or death.
Yeah,
like it's life.
Well, listen, that's part of what makes Philly fans great. But here's my takeaway as a Philly fan. All right, if this team gets hot at the right time, they can contend for a World Series. Now, a lot of things have to go your way. Obviously, it's a long season. It's a long baseball season. But I think if they get hot at the right time, that's a team that can contend clearly because they've started out hot here. I think they're 7-2 to start the season.
Yeah, so and they won a series over the Dodgers. Exciting. Tough. So people. Yeah, it's a very good team, and they're in the conversation. As long as you're in the conversation, if everything goes your way, you got a shot. But you're going to lose some games in baseball.
Yeah,
you're even gonna beg off and lay up and give away games as a manager to get through a season. If you got a week where you're low on pitching staff, you might throw a guy to just get bombed out there to eat some innings. It's not football. If you're really, really good, you're going to lose 62 of them. But boy, the mentality is just. Third inning. Oh, they're terrible. It's over.
I think part of it has become a shtick for Philadelphians.
You think?
Oh yeah, of course, obviously. But no.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right because, boy, I remember when I worked in a newsroom and there was a Phillies fan looking at spring training, getting upset at spring training base, like legitimately upset. Like they gave up 2 runs in the 7th.
John, that passion of the Philadelphia fan base is why Birds 365 exists. All right, because these fans are passionate.
But in baseball, I'm just making you aware. I mean, you're going to lose some games. Yeah. Don't get so worked up about it.
Anyway, no, I hear you. The Duke game is crazy because it was like they had no field goals in the last 10 minutes. They were winning the game. They should have won the game. But the thing I loved about that game is Houston, man, old school coaching, grind them up on defense. Duke couldn't buy a bucket, and Houston comes back.
Yeah, it was a good game. The depressing part, though, again, about the tournament is, the history of the tournament is upsets and Cinderella's going far. And, to have one versus one, it's a bunch of stormtroopers, one versus
well, that's
one.
what it's going to mean, John. That's just beginning, with NIL and college basketball and then the way college sports are progressing. I mean, let's be real, that gone are the days of, probably, at least, maybe not fully, but mostly gone are the days of big upsets like that, I think, at least.
Yeah, well, you're probably right. And that's one of the reasons I don't think college basketball is quite as exciting as it used to be.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's even on that Florida game where they knocked off Auburn. Obviously, as a Bama guy, I'd love to see Auburn get knocked off. My sister went to UF though, and I was at her house this weekend for her baby's baptism. But she's a big Florida fan, so we had that game on. Even one of their top scorers on that team, John, transfer from Iona. So you're going to see all those small schools. They're basically a filter of talent. And the other thing that's happening, which is interesting, and I would imagine it's happening in football as well, is coaches are scouting high school players less because there's hundreds of players in the transfer portal. So they're scouting the transfer portal because they can get guys that can play just as easy as they can get high schoolers. So there's always going to be more effects of what goes on.
Yeah. Walter Clayton you're talking about. He's the first guy to score 30 points. I can't believe this.
I kick and hoop, man.
In back-to-back NCAA title games that late. So what would that be? Sweet 16, I guess.
Yeah.
Since Larry Bird.
Wow.
It's been a while.
That's a long time.
Yeah. So, and you're right. He's a transfer. They're all transfers. And that, it used to be a big deal in college football. I'm more focused on college football for obvious reasons, because eventually they're coming to the pros. And you got to at least pay somewhat attention. Can't pay attention during the season, but then you work up to it during the draft. And then as we get into it in the final month, but even then, recruiting day used to be such a big thing. And from going to Alabama, how many 5-star recruits, how many they get, how many Georgia get, blah, blah, blah. Now, they still get a bunch, but it's like, well, you got to recruit them. You got to re-recruit them every year.
Right.
Even schools like that, because if they don't play, and that's one of the things we talked about Kirby Smart being smart with, guys not playing a lot at Georgia because he made sure that everybody was playing. To keep as many people as possible, because guys even transfer out of schools like that if they're blocked and can't play.
Right.
So you got to re-recruit these kids every year. It's a disaster.
Yeah, college sports. The landscape of college sports is changing rapidly, but we'll see how it all shakes out. Johnny Mac, some Eagle news here is some top 30 visits, two new visits for the Eagles in the top 30 visits. We've been talking about these top visits because typically the Eagles do draft a guy that they bring in. So the two newest are Nick Scorton from Texas A&M. This guy played at Purdue for 22 and 23. And then
another guy,
Texas A&M, another transfer. And then Jacob Parrish is a cornerback who went to K-State, right? Kansas State. So two new visits, a cornerback and a defensive end. The interesting part about Nick Scorton, and I'll see if I can really quickly load it up. I had it up. Is he was, the Eagles tend to love guys who test super high in the RAS, which is the relative athletic score and all those things. He didn't even qualify for the RAS due to lack of measurements. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but he got an NA on the RAS score, which is always interesting. In 22 and 23, he played, I mentioned, at Purdue. Then he transferred to Texas A&M, 37 total games, logged 17 sacks, 31 tackles for a loss. And he was most productive in 23 at Purdue with 10 sacks. But he's an interesting player, John, and I think he's a real option if they want to go edge with that first pick, either at 32 or a potential trade back.
Yeah, I think, he makes a lot of sense from both a positional perspective, and also he offers a little bit of traits. You mentioned he's a bigger guy. Generally, I don't know if he worked out at the combine or not. If he doesn't have an RAS, pulled up NFL.com. If he doesn't have a RAS score, that probably means he didn't work out the combine. I know he worked out at his pro day.
Yeah, he might not have worked out, and that's what lack of measurements means, I guess, for that.
He's a bigger guy. He's a yeah, and I've been talking about that when it comes to think about what the Eagles right now, if they had to play a game on the edge, you're talking about Nolan Smith, Jalix Hunt, Aziz Ojulari, and Josh Uche. Right there, the biggest one of the bunch is Uche.
Right.
Hunt will be because of his frames, but this kid's like 260-ish, and he can get bigger. So I think it offers not only help at the position, it also gives you a trait that you don't have. And I think he's a value. Probably, I'd want to come off 32. I wouldn't take him at 32. But if you can move down 32 to 45-ish and you can get him there, that's where I think the wheelhouse would be for that particular player. And I think he's a better fit than some of the other guys. The Boston College kid is still, to me, the best player the Eagles have brought in. But I find it very hard to believe he's going to last till 32. So if you're talking about realistic guys at 32 or below, I think this guy leads the list with maybe Donovan Jackson, maybe Josh Connerly, some offensive linemen. Connerly's sort of, he might go earlier, but I think there's a chance he could fall to 32. I think there's a chance. Same with this player. And he gives you that trait that you don't have. I think that would be very, very important for Vic Fangio.
Yeah, we'll see what ends up happening there. John did mention those bigger dudes, so maybe you get your power edge there. But the thing I do like about him, he's certainly a 3-down player. So if he does develop into a good NFL player,
he's also very young. The Eagles love that.
Yeah. What is his age? I didn't see his age anywhere.
20. He's going to be 21 in August. So late in training camp, August 25th, he'll turn 21. So he's very young. He's he doesn't have the greatest length. That's why he's not. And you mentioned he's a 3-down player. He's produced, unlike Shamar Stewart at the same school. He's produced at both Purdue and Texas A&M. He's from everything I see, he's advanced when it comes to a pass rushing plan. A lot of guys are just speed rushers, power. He's pretty advanced despite his young age because he played a lot at Purdue. So that part of it's good, but he's not, he's not typical. He doesn't have the length. He's only 6'3". He doesn't have the length. He doesn't have Josh Sweat type. That's what everyone wants. So there's some things you could look at him and say, all right, this has got to get better. But I think he'd be a very good fit for this particular team.
Yep, could be interesting to see what ends up happening there. But I do like that player. We'll see what ends up happening. Another edge rusher though in the room, so kind of developing a trend here. You're seeing a lot of defensive tackle guys or defensive line guys. You're seeing a lot of offensive line guys. And the other thing, John, that seems to be developing in the trend of the top 30 visits is cornerbacks. Right? They brought in a couple of cornerbacks. They brought in Maxwell Hairston from Kentucky a little bit ago. Now they got Jacob Parrish from Kansas State. Now these might be later round guys. I don't think they're top
not Hairston,
but no, not
Hairston's pretty big prospect.
He would be what though? Second rounder, right? Probably.
He could sneak into he's a bridge pick, I would say. And by that, he could go late first, early second.
Right. Gotcha.
It only takes one team, but he's definitely a bridge pick. I think he's a good fit for the Eagles, too. He's a natural off coverage player like Quinyon Mitchell was last year.
Right.
And as Slay told me, you got somebody who comes in and can play off, because it's way easier for young players just to play press. You just to point out, all right, you got this guy. To play in big scheme with all the communication, all that kind of stuff. So he's ahead of it. He's ahead of the game. Parrish, to me, he's a nickel player, slot player. Now they don't have a backup for Cooper DeJean. We just saw Big talking at the Phillies game about wants to keep Cooper DeJean in the slot. But I think what people don't understand is want and need are two different things. They want to do it. Can they afford to do it? That's up to Kaylee Ringo and Adoree Jackson. So, if Kaylee Ringo doesn't develop, if Adoree Jackson doesn't have much left, then what do you do?
Right.
Then Vic might be saying, well, I got to play him outside, but then you got to play somebody inside. And that's maybe where a kid like this factors in for depth and all that kind of stuff. Because, as much as people shit on Avonte Maddox, that dude played a lot of different positions. Could play in the slot, could play the dime, could play backup safety. And that's valuable when you have backup players on game day. And he's another guy no one talks about for obvious reasons. I mean, was a declining player. I don't blame the Eagles for getting moving on, but you got to replace him as well. And are you going to have a different backup slot, a different dime player, a different backup safety? Then you're taking up 3 players for the same spot.
You're running out of bodies. You can't. You're not going to be able to do that.
So, maybe I wouldn't think about him until day 3, though, from my perspective.
Yeah, he's the number 110 ranked prospect by PFF. So, not saying that's gospel, but you're probably looking at a late 3rd or probably a 4th round pick with somebody like Jacob Parrish there. So that'd be interesting. But 5'9", Johnny Mac, 5'9 and a half and 191 pounds. I'm bigger than this dude. I sometimes have a hard time believing. But listen, I'm not saying he's not going to be a player because of that. But boy, that is an undersized guy.
He played played outside at Kansas State, but that's why everyone projects him inside. Pro level.
You're not. I don't think you're playing outside cornerback in the NFL at 5'9".
Well, I guess who did last year pretty effectively, and Eagles fans liked him, Isaiah Rodgers. That's what we were all talking. He might not even. They list him at 5'10", but
that might be generous.
Yeah, that might be generous. And he's lighter than that. And that's one of the reasons I think the Eagles, so coming out from his pro day, measured at 5'9" and 5'8", and he was 170 pounds. Now, he played pretty well, but I think you saw, people are saying, well, Rodgers was ahead of Ringo. Why didn't they bring back Rodgers? That's the reason. They don't think he can hold up long term,
right,
on the outside. And he, for whatever reason, doesn't like the slot. Never, run fits are a big thing in the slot. Like, you got to be physical. I'll tell you right now, they're looking at a kid like Parrish and saying, is he physical enough to play inside?
It was one of the things that Cooper DeJean was impressively good at was he was a ball hawk. And he was incredible against the run. I mean, he was really good. He was really always around the
physical,
ball.
Very invites it. Good blitzer. Big likes to run blitz from the slot a lot. He's a perfect fit. He's a perfect fit for a lot of. He's just a good football player.
Yeah, excellent football player.
But this kid's slightly bigger than Rodgers. So not that you can't do it, but the Eagles are, even after they saw Rodgers do it for 350 whatever snaps, they said, well, yeah, but if that goes to 1,000, he's probably not going to be able to do it. So, sizes. And Kaylee's got 6'2", a wingspan like an NBA center, sub 4.4 speed. He's got everything you look for in an outside corner. Doesn't mean he can play.
Right. Measurables are just measurables. They do matter a little bit, but Keeley certainly has the measurables. So we'll see how it all shakes out there. But those are your 2 updates on the 2 visits, the most recent visits. So, John, we're up to 16 now, correct? 16 out of 30 that have at least we know. It could be more, but again, just from what we know, or at least has been.
And remember, that's like a 47% blind spot. So don't get, but one of the things, it's been all basically offensive, defensive linemen, except for 2 corners that you mentioned, and the running back from Texas. I believe that those are the only outliers. Everybody else has been an offensive lineman or a defensive front player. The most interesting thing to me is no tight ends. And that could be just say, we don't want to tip our hand on tight end because they're going to draft a tight end. I'm pretty confident.
Right? I mean, how the heck could they not?
I'm pretty confident they're going to draft a tight end.
You're right. Now, listen, you did point out there's 47% that we don't know about yet. So maybe there's 3 tight ends that fall in there, and they're trying to keep it close to the vest. But now we will see what happens there, obviously, with Dallas Goedert contract and that his status lingering for the Birds. So we'll see what happens there. We got Jeff Kerr in the green room. Our Jeff Kerr back in his Monday slot. We all love Jeff Kerr on a Monday morning here on Birds 365. Let's go to him now. Joining us here on Birds 365 is Jeff Kerr from CBS Sports. Make sure you guys follow him at Jeff Kerr CBS. Read all his work at CBS Sports. Jeff, how you doing on this Monday morning, brother?
Just coming back from an exciting series win over the Dodgers.
Yeah, woo! Yeah, the best team in the history of baseball.
Yeah, so what does that make the Phillies?
It makes the Phillies. Hey, what I'm going to get Jeff going. I think it's so amusing that a lot of Philadelphia fans treat Phillies games like they're Eagles games. Everything is live and die. I'm like, even if you're great, you're going to lose 60 of these things. That baseball's not the same. Sometimes, Jeff, sometimes your pitching staff's up against it. You got to throw out some, joke to eat some innings, and you give up a game just to get ready for the rest of the week. It's not the same mentality of football, but boy, we got this text chain, and a bunch of Phillies fans are on it besides me, of course. And they live and die with every inning and every bat. This guy stinks, and this guy.
Are you roasting them?
I'm just one of those people. I'm like, okay, they're 7-2, and everybody thinks about the 2 losses instead of the 7 wins.
Oh my God!
I'm sorry. I mean, I think the Phillies are off to a great start. Jeff, this was my take from the early Phillies start, and I'm with John. I mean, you can't overreact to every game, but the team has shown me early in the year if they stay healthy, obviously, and if they get hot when they need to get hot late in the year, this team can contend for a World Series. Not saying they're gonna. Obviously, a long way to go and a lot of things to happen, but they do have good players in the room. If they get hot, I think they can contend.
I agree. I mean, that's probably one of the more rational takes I've seen about the Phillies, Zander. I'll say that. But even last year when they lost to the Mets, and I know the Mets were a hot team, I still thought the Phillies were a better team than them. And I said, if they get the Dodgers in the NLCS, there's a really good chance they were going to go to the World Series. Everybody's like, oh, the Dodgers are unbeatable. I'm like, the Dodgers had 2 bullpen games last year. I think the Phillies got in this whole, they were swinging the pitches out of the zone. They weren't taking pitches like they were early in the season, and it bit them. And now they're going back to that, and you're seeing the result. They're not hitting the ball like we think they should be hitting, but they're doing enough. I mean, really, our complaint right now with this team is, okay, they're only winning like one run, 2-run game. Like, let's see a 7-2 game in there somewhere.
Yeah, but that's a rich people problem where you're like, oh,
exactly.
I didn't win by enough. I want to win by more. Now my one thing right now is bullpen a little bit. That Romano hasn't been impressive at all to me. A couple other arms. I think you're going to need a little bit more out of the bullpen. So we'll see. But
everybody's got a shitty bullpen. Jeff, why has baseball? Larger question. Why has baseball? You mentioned bullpen games. I remember Billy Martin was the first to ever do this when he was managing the Oakland A's. Everybody looked at Billy Martin like he was insane. He didn't have good starting pitching at the time. So he's like, I'm gonna throw this tomato can out there for 3 innings and then go to the bullpen. And everybody's killing Billy Martin. He was like 20 years ahead of the game. But this is one thing I can't stand about baseball, the devaluing of starting pitching. You get a guy to the 5th inning, he's out. And you got all these arms coming, and half of them stink, even on the good teams. Why have they gone this direction?
Yeah, I always thought they've been mismanaging pitchers for a long time. That's why I probably have such a defense of Aaron Nola like I do. Everybody's like, Aaron Nola stinks. He gives up a lot of home runs. I'm like, I agree with you. He gives up a lot of home runs. But how many guys do you see pitch 6 innings?
Yeah, and look, 2-3 runs. I mean, in the modern game, I know it's not great, but it's not bad. I'm not an Aaron Nola.
I had them all riled up yesterday.
Yeah.
Look, this is what people don't realize as someone who covers the team. I am really close to Christopher Sanchez. I tweeted yesterday. You guys know Christopher Sanchez had a worse game than Aaron Nola did. Oh, no. Oh, you hate Christopher Sanchez. That's what it is. I'm like, yeah, I hate Christopher Sanchez. I'm like, if you were in the clubhouse, you would not, and people knew where I was going with that. I'm like, he gave up 4 runs and 5 in the third. Aaron gave up 3 runs and 6. I mean, and look, Nick Castellanos was absolutely right. If you take away Teoscar Hernandez yesterday, Christopher Sanchez probably pitches a shutout. But unfortunately, Teoscar Hernandez exists, and he's a really good baseball player. That's what I think people who watch baseball watch their team, and that's fine. But realize that there's 29 other teams in the league, and there are some really good ones in the league, and the Dodgers are one of them.
Jeff, I think the majority of people will watch football and watch their team.
It's true.
Yeah.
Every quarterback is ass, John. If I'm not
By
mistaken.
the way, have you noticed Philadelphia has turned into the NFC East? You got the haves and you got the have-nots. You got the 2 teams in contention, Eagles and Phillies, and you got the directs of society, Sixers and Flyers.
I went, so after the Phillies game Saturday, because I'm a season ticket holder for the Sixers, I decided to walk over after I got my post-game story.
Yeah, I want you to call them after this show and say, I need some of my money back on this. This is a joke.
No, that was already deposited last year. So I go in, I go sit in my seat. Everybody knew where I was coming from in my section. And they're like, look up at the scoreboard. They were winning. I'm like, you guys want me to do what I yell? When they tanked during the process years, I used to yell, stop winning.
Well, they should stop winning, but
you're part of the problem, Jeff. I didn't know that because but the NBA is broken. They really got to fix. They really got to.
It's a terrible problem. The only reason I went was to just watch Anthony Edwards play basketball.
Yeah, I love Anthony Edwards.
Well, they're still great players, and the playoffs and high leverage moments, you'll see some good basketball with the good teams. But I'm talking the offseason, how they build rosters. They have to rework the whole system. They have to fix it.
I always say I think it's a problem for a league when free agency and the draft is better than the actual product in the regular season.
Well, I don't know if it's better in the NBA. I think it's
more dramatic.
Well, I think but I think it's part of the problem because, I mean, that kid in Oklahoma City is going to be the MVP. I think.
I should be. Unless they give it to the token boy, to call it Jokic. I feel like he gets MVP. He's really, really good.
Well, he's really good.
He's incredible.
But I just hate the backwards jumping Nuggets fans do for this guy. When they got mad, Joel won it the one year, and I'm like, okay, well, Nikola Jokic took it from Joel the year Joel should have won it. So
are you a Joel Embiid truther, Jeff Kerr?
No.
Okay.
I
was gonna have to get into that with you.
No, but I will say this: when both were at their peak, Jokic was the better player. But when those two went face to face, head to head, Joel dominated him. Because
Jokic is a better offensive player. Joel was better all around for sure.
Oh my God, yeah.
Well,
and Joel was a really good offensive player too.
I mean, Jokic is one of the best big, scoring big guys.
Jokic is just so much more fundamentally sound,
Yeah.
But I just love watching Jokic play basketball. Like I'm just a
why
fan.
Wouldn't you?
I'm a fan of the game. I love what he does. I just wish he played a little defense, but that's not Mike Malone's system. So,
but with fans, it's fine if you're garbage, if you're not the first or the second or the third pick, and then everybody else is garbage. If fans believe that, all right, who cares? If teams believe it, and the Sixers thought that for many years, under a guy whose name we do not mention. I just find it ironic. That's why I bring up Shy. He was the 11th pick in the draft. Not that, hey, that's incredibly talented, obviously, and incredibly. But if that was here during the process era, oh, that's garbage. It's
I
like
agree.
player development doesn't exist.
Right.
By the way,
Tyrese Maxey was taken in the 20s. Yeah.
By the way, who was Shy traded for, gentlemen?
I don't know that.
He's a current Sixer right now.
Oh God.
Is it
Paul George.
Paul George.
Oh
yeah.
God.
So
Yeah,
who
he
do you
was
think?
yeah,
who do
he
you
got
think is
drafted.
regretting that more, the Clippers or
Yeah.
who's Paul
I
George
think
deal
it's
was
safe to say
worse?
who won that trade. This is what
Yeah.
pisses me off about the Sixers, though. You know, you look at Boston, and Sixers fans won't want to hear this, but you know, when it was happening, I used to debate with my dad about the process. I used to say, "Look, they're getting Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid. They're going to have a great
Ben
team."
Simmons.
And he used to say, "You're an idiot. This whole thing is not going to work. It's stupid." And I'm like, and he's like, "Look at Boston. When they
You're
back when they
You're
had
an
the
idiot.
second pick,
I love
watch
that.
what they do." And he's like, they're going to return to the finals before the Sixers ever even get close. And lo and behold, this is how it's played out. And I went back to my, you know, I love talking basketball with my dad. So I went, we've talked about it.
You know what's funny, Xander? Your dad could have tweeted that in 2017 and he would have gotten
He would have got
roasted.
retweeted Armageddon.
Yeah,
like I
he
did.
would've got
but he would have been right
Yep.
and no one would have acknowledged it.
He
No.
said it though. Boston will be back, and the Sixers will still be in limbo, and that's exactly what happened.
Hey,
Boston
one of my
rebuilt on the
favorite,
fly.
one of my favorite posts now, Twitter posts back then. When I tweeted when they traded Drew Holiday, because I was covering the Sixers, right at the cusp. Right, the last thing I covered when I was covering the Sixers was the Andrew Bynum press conference at the Constitution Center, if you remember that.
Oh, I do.
And there was so much excitement around this team, and obviously didn't work out,
No.
to say the least.
I don't think this team is ever going to get the excitement back it had maybe 70.
Well, yeah,
They gotta
you
earn
do
it
you
back,
do
Joe.
what they did. So many people are so short-sighted about the wins, and you got to win the trade. We got to win the trade. So that's why I said, you know, I think Drew Holiday. I probably said this to you. I tweeted at the time when they traded him. I think he could be a meaningful piece on a championship team.
You know what? The last time we talked about it, I was on this show, you said that.
Yeah.
Right.
And I got retweeted Armageddon from all the idiots because
Right.
Michael Carter Williams. Look, they got Michael Carter and Nerlens Noel.
Oh my God!
And meanwhile,
Jahlil Okafor, all those guys. Oh goodness!
You
And
know,
meanwhile-
my buddies and I used to have this debate about Jahlil Okafor and Rashawn Holmes. And I was like, you guys know they both suck, right? And they're like, oh, stop it, Kerr. Stop it, Kerr. I'm like, they both stink. Oh, by the way, you play the lottery pick over the second round pick because that's how things work. Didn't work out for either of them, but
Nope.
you know.
yeah. And now, you know, to look at Drew, two-time NBA champion, six-time NBA All-Defender, won 2 gold medals on top of it, if you want to count that as winning.
Well, it counts on the Hall of Fame resume.
I would say, but yet the retweet Armageddon people have not returned.
No, they never do, Johnny Mac. That's why I can't.
I'll defend Aaron Nola to the death in baseball, and I'll defend any pitcher to the death in baseball because I know these guys personally. And it's like, you just can't say a good thing about Aaron Nola. You can't. And it sucks because everybody, you know what? This is always my take on it. I think when people were not watching the Phillies, aka when they were really bad from 2012 to 2021, Aaron Nola was on those teams that lost, and that's how they relate. That's the one guy they knew on those bad teams. Those teams
Right.
with Duval Herrera, Michael Saunders, and just
Yeah.
Cody Ashley, just bad players across the board. But he was the one good player.
Well,
And
the reason why the Phillies have a chance to win short series is Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola.
Right.
Yep.
Now
and,
they got to.
and if Luzardo keeps pitching like he started, I mean, it's only 2 games, but good night.
I think John likes my crusade right now on Twitter if he just goes down the rabbit hole that is Jeff Kerr's X account. every time Max Kepler, Jesus Luzardo does something, oh, they were another one of those Phillies didn't do anything moves this offseason.
Yeah. Well, baseball, yeah. I mean, and you got to take the foot off the gas occasionally in baseball. It's just the reality of it. You're gonna lose some games.
You're gonna go in skids.
Yeah, I mean that's part of it. You have to manage that for the end of the season.
You know, Alec Boehm's in a skid right now, and it's 9 games in. Everybody's concerned. I'm like, yeah, there's reason to be concerned, but we got to remember
the adage. You're a Hall of Famer if you fail 7 times at 10. The old adage in baseball. I mean, that's what it is.
So true.
That is the game in general. But we are football. People are going to get upset.
Yeah. Let's actually talk.
All right, I'm going to start with an out of the box. Just I want to ask. I've been talking about this for a while, and I want to ask both you guys about this because I think everybody understands where the Eagles are and sort of the pantheon of organizations in the NFL. They're a damn good one. Jeffrey Lurie regrets saying gold standard when he said gold standard. He could make the argument now and not be laughed at that this is the gold standard.
Remember when
NFL.
that was the mockery for a lot of years?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's what I'm saying. He could make that same statement today and everybody go, there'd be some people pushing back and saying, settle down. But he can make a credible argument for it now. He wouldn't get chuckled at like he was for years over the first time is my point. I don't know if you saw, but the LA Rams introduced plans for their new headquarters out in Southern California.
I did see
and it is, the plans are unbelievable. And Stan Kroenke's got the money to do it.
How many sports teams does he own?
I don't know. He's a good owner, man, and he is not shy with his cash.
I would say, there's rich people amongst rich people.
Yeah,
like Mark Davis and the Browns are rich, but they're not rich like Stan Kroenke.
Yeah, the Broncos owners, the Walton family.
Yeah.
They're rich.
Exactly. Jerry Jones is in that category. But anyway, I bring this up because I've been talking about this for years. You see all these new facilities, Dallas, Miami, Minnesota,
I know where you're going with this, John.
The Jets. The NovaCare complex opened in 2001. And at the time, it was one of the best facilities in the NFL. And now it isn't. And how long can they keep going in that facility, in that situation, and still compete with these teams that are building these palaces all around the country? I think they have to do something.
Yeah. And you know what? It's funny, John, because I said if I was at the owners' meetings last week with Lori, I would have asked him.
I know.
What are the future plans?
Yes,
no one has thought of this.
No, I'm surprised no reporter asked about that.
You know what's funny? Because there's only really a small group that talk about it. And John and I talk about it when we're actually in the building.
Well, I'll tell you what. John asked, how do you do this? If you keep winning, like at the rate that they're winning, that's the only thing that could be the great equalizer for that. Because talent will always want to play.
But this is our concern, Zander. Where do you put the new NovaCare complex?
Well, John's been saying, get the hell out of the city. I understand why he says that, because the city's a nightmare when it comes to the politics of it, the zoning, all sorts of stuff.
Let's not even get into the traffic aspect.
The traffic. I mean, you can name it. There's a litany of issues with the city, but we'll see what they end up doing. I mean, I do agree, though. At some point, they're going to have to make a move here. No,
they're going to have to. I agree with John. Get out of the city. I just don't know. Like, build that state-of-the-art. I know the Eagles want to be in the city, but build that state-of-the-art complex. Build it. If you build it, they will come. If
you build it, I mean, that would give Philadelphia. That would be one of the best places to come to. Because if you think about it right now, Philadelphia is already among the top of, in the last 5 years. I mean, John just brought up, that's why you can call us a gold standard and not laugh right now. They are one of the teams that you can look at as a free agent or whatever player and say, I'm probably going to have a good chance to win there. There's no guarantee, but there's a good chance to win there. If they get the facility too, plus the big city, you know what I mean?
The Eagles make up for their structural difficulties with that culture you pointed out there, Zander. And look, perfect example. I go to Baltimore. I go to the Ravens facility. I go to their locker room post game, and I was talking to a couple players about this after the AFC Divisional Playoffs 2 years ago. I'm like, this is incredible what you guys have done. I said, when did you guys get this done? I don't remember this last time. They said, we just finished it. They got leather chairs, they got air conditioning all over the place. They basically got their own personal trainer. Like everybody's got like a team trainer, it feels like. And you know, it's like a lounge, right?
Yeah.
The Lincoln Financial Field's locker room isn't like that.
But what do you guys think the negative is? Like, do you think it could genuinely dissuade a player from wanting to come to Philly? Like, what do you see as the potential downsides here that the Eagles have to nip in the bud?
I think the facility stinks.
So you're saying players wouldn't want to play here, right? Is that what you're alluding to?
I think ultimately it comes, obviously they haven't had, you're right about the winning aspect. That still trumps everything. And when you're talking about a vast majority of players, they don't have the opportunity. We're talking about a short group of guys who are good and can pick where they want to be and that type of thing. And I agree with you, winning cures everything. That's a cliche for a reason. And right now they're great and they're winning. So it's not a problem. But it is a cyclical industry.
This is how, by the way, John, this is how old the NovaCare complex is. Remember when we were having we were going to interview players outside the locker room? Where were you going to do it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And the practice bubble is not even a full site. You got high schools, literally high schools in Texas that have better practice bubbles than the Philadelphia Eagles.
most high schools in Texas.
And this is not an indictment of Jeffrey Lurie. It is an indictment of the city of Philadelphia.
Yep.
Because they have plenty of room. They have what's called the Naval parking lot for people who know the South Philly area, which is just a giant parking lot right next to the NovaCare complex. There's some overflow parking for Phillies games and things like that. People park there. They charge them an arm and a leg, all that kind of stuff. There's plenty of space to build everything they need to do if they give them that parking lot or let them win or come up.
But they won't let them do it.
Yeah, they won't let them do it. And Jeffrey, again, for the people that want to criticize him for this, he's the only reason he should have pled to the suburbs years ago. And he's trying to keep things in Philadelphia.
Yeah. And you know what? He was so fortunate back in the 90s when Ed Rendell was mayor of Philadelphia because he wanted to keep these sports teams in the city. And even in 2000, there was threats of the Eagles leaving because they had to move on from the vet. And the Phillies were able to get their ballpark announced in South Philly before the Eagles did. And there was legit talk about the Eagles leaving again for the second time in 15 years, which is horrible. And Lurie was like, look, we got this practice facility coming in. We got to keep this team here because they were building NovaCare at the time.
And I mean, you could look at it from the Sixers perspective. When they were good, they had to practice at that awful PCOM facility on City Line Avenue for years and years and years and years. And to get a class facility, it's ironic because they've been one of the best facilities in the NBA.
And they can get people to come there.
Yeah.
I think Jimmy Butler has even said on record that was the best practice facility he's played.
Yeah. But they had to go to Camden to do it. They had to go to South Jersey to do it. The Flyers practice in South Jersey. The Phillies, obviously, every team has to be in Florida or Arizona, but
the Phillies have state-of-the-art stuff at Citizens Bank Park.
Well, yeah. I mean, once you're in season, you don't need a facility for baseball. That's in Florida. The Sixers have moved to South Jersey. The Flyers have moved for years. They've been in South Jersey.
Johnny Mac is the biggest Eagles to South Jersey truth.
Johnny Mac just doesn't want to cross the bridge.
That's true.
Yeah, McMullen, come to South Jersey. Come on.
I want Johnny Mac to come to King of Prussia and like it, baby.
There you go.
That is true. I'd rather have it in South Jersey for obviously my purposes, my selfish purposes. I agree with, but I would advocate a move to anywhere if they get something done in the Philadelphia suburbs. That's fine, but they got to get the hell out. They got to.
It's so funny how when you see on Twitter, X, whatever, like this love for Philadelphia, and I'm like, it ain't the same love I'm seeing. But I'm not from Philly. I live in the suburbs, and for
Look,
good reason.
the NFLPA survey, it's the only thing the Eagles weren't good in. Let's put it that way.
And that's not going to change until they get a new facility.
Yeah. Anyway, well, off the cuff, it's the off season, but the Rams, check it out for people that haven't seen it. And
look at what the Browns are doing. They're getting a new one too.
Yep.
The Cleveland Browns, one of the worst franchises in sports.
Yep.
Oh, and they're getting a dome stadium too. By the way, John, since we're
to be fair, the Browns got to do something to lure people to Cleveland for crying.
How will
crying out loud, Jeff?
Money talks.
Money
Xander.
talks, and a facility talks when you're playing in Cleveland. I mean,
by the way, what is this city going to do when Jeffrey Lurie gets his dream dome?
What do you mean? I mean, they want to dome because they want to.
Well, he wants to host the Super Bowl, but what's going to happen when it happens?
I think people will be happy with it. Oh, you're saying from the outdoor not having the
yeah.
I think they'll have a I think people will be fine. I mean,
you won't have memories like that divisional round playoff game anymore, though.
No. Yeah, you're right. That point. But
that's one trend I do not like in professional football right now. Everything has to be in the dome so we could get these athletes at their best. I'm like, yeah, I grew up where you played football outside, no matter what. That was always the appeal. That's the appeal soccer fans like to make about their sport. We play in any weather, unlike your sport.
Yeah, I hear you. And there's I don't hear a lot of people say you got to have everybody at optimum level.
You hear that in the South.
Do you?
Yeah.
Well, probably because they can't play in the weather.
Well, that's what. Honestly, John. So again, I'm going to go on a Penn State tangent here. The best part about the Penn State playoff game against SMU was watching the team from the South, from Texas, come
crumble.
Yeah, it was so cold. I'm like, I'm freezing. I saw literally Penn State players come out dressed up like they were in parkas for warm-ups, saw how dressed up SMU was. They're like, okay, we're going to psych them out. They all came out with it was like a September game, and I don't think SMU knew what hit them.
It works both ways. I always joke about that Miami practice, which, by the way, the Miami facility is gorgeous. It was so hot down there, Jeff. We always make the joke Nick Sirianni was like undefeated in joint practices until
last year.
Myles Garrett showed up. I forget what was first. They've lost two. The Myles Garrett day and
they lost theirs last year, didn't they?
The Dolphins. Dolphins, not this year.
Last year. Yeah, 23. Yeah. That's right.
And it was so hot. It was miserable. And the Eagles are out there stretching at the Dolphins facility. And here comes the Dolphins right before practice starts. They were indoors in the air conditioning, getting ready for the start of practice. And they just waxed the Eagles. Yeah. It was almost hilarious.
John, you know what my favorite thing Dolphins do? And I tell Dolphins beat writers this all the time. I love how they purposely are on the side of the shade.
Oh, yeah.
At Hard Rock during game. They know where the place for the sun is. I'm like, man, is that G? Mike McDaniel was the first one to think of that.
Yeah. Yeah. The teams take advantage of that. The cold weather teams back in the old days, the Packers, obviously, most notably, but when Minnesota played outdoors, Bud Grant and all that, they would take advantage of all that stuff.
That's one.
Guess what? You remember that Tampa game last year? Now the Eagles didn't have AJ Brown and Lane Johnson.
It was hot.
It was hot. Miserable.
Yeah,
and the Eagles just got destroyed. So it can work both ways.
Yeah. By the way, John, that's one of the tricks of the trade with the Phillies. I have a lot of people ask me, why are the Phillies always on the first base side? Because most teams are on the third base side. I said, I'll tell you the reason. Because where the sun hits at Citizens Bank Park, especially for day games in April, it's really really cold at 2, 3 o'clock. They want the sun. Now, it hurts in the summer, but they don't care. They're baseball players.
Yeah. Yeah, baseball's famous for it because you'd have, back in the days when they had guys who'd steal bases, they had the ground crew play with the dirt, and when they would bunt, you would have long grass. They would always take advantage of it. So that's part of it. You should take advantage of your home. And when you do, like when you move inside, like say Detroit, then you build your team a different way. And you still have the home field advantage if you build the team the right way.
That's what it's.
So do you think we're plausibly heading towards every team, and it might be 20 years from now, but every team will be retractable roof, domes, all these things?
If they want a Super Bowl, that's the problem. They all want Super Bowls. And if you're a northern city and you want a Super Bowl, you have to have a dome.
Yeah, right. And a Final Four and everything else. Yeah, I agree, Zander. Yeah, and remember, it's kind of like the cookie cutter stadiums in the 70s. You could ask that question in 1968. Is everybody going to get a cookie cutter stadium? Well, the answer was yes. they were not aesthetically pleasing, no. like John's favorite play.
Yeah,
but they were our dump.
The bubble screen, by the way. Yeah,
I never wanted to go to any other ballpark when I was a kid because they all looked the same.
You're right. That
Bungles.
Veteran Stadium, Riverfront Stadium, and what did they call Pittsburgh?
Three Rivers.
Three Rivers, yeah.
And I mean, I would love to see the Astrodome. I mean, that's a historical landmark.
Yeah.
Qualcomm Stadium was like them. There's a
St. Louis was like them.
Yeah, St. Louis. Yeah, Busch Stadium 2 was like that.
Yeah.
And then Camden Yards just changed the game.
Yeah, that was great. Camden Yards, man. That was when that showed up. That was something. Because you had that old. Obviously, Fenway is probably the most notable. The old Yankee Stadium, the old Yankee Stadium, but Fenway is probably the one. And Wrigley, yeah, Fenway and Wrigley. Yeah. Those are the two most unique.
Yeah, Dodger Stadium is pretty unique too. As someone who's been there.
I never liked Dodger Stadium.
You didn't like it? Well, I don't like getting into Dodger Stadium.
I used to go to Minute Maid Park. I lived when I lived in Houston.
That's a newer one. Yeah. I'm talking about the older ones.
Legitimately next to Minute Maid Park, right next to it.
Did you like it, Zander?
I actually went to. I did. I thought it was a beautiful stadium. It was really cool. I actually went to Game 7 of the World Series when they lost to the Nationals.
Oh, that had to be something.
Yeah, that was incredible. So I was at that game at Minute Maid Park. But no, that's cool stadium. It's cool.
John, what's the nicest NFL stadium in your mind?
Stan Kroenke's gotta be the
yeah. I've never been there. John, I think John has.
Yeah, SoFi. It's between SoFi, Atlanta, and Minnesota. Those are the three top stadiums.
Yeah, I haven't been to either of the ones I've been to. Man, it's tough.
I've been to Jerry's World. Jerry's World was pretty.
Yeah. Jerry World is impressive. Hard Rock Stadium for the new version is a lot nicer than when it was.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Hard Rock in Miami. I've been there.
And they're all SoFi isn't technically a dome. It's open air. SoFi is the best, I would say.
Have you been to the 49ers new stadium?
Yeah.
Do you like it?
It's okay.
Yeah, I've heard mixed reactions. That's the Super Bowl this year, by the way.
Atlanta and Minnesota Minnesota's cool because of the big window. So you almost have a feeling of it's outside.
Wait, Jeff, where did you say the Super Bowl was?
It's in Santa Clara, where the 49ers.
Oh, right, Santa Clara. Yep.
Yeah, so it's weird. They got 50 and 60 for their two Super Bowls.
Oh,
by the way, we're in the 60s now for the Super Bowl.
I know, going to be 60.
Super
Eagles
Bowl
won the
60.
last one in the 50s.
All right,
Eagles won 2 in the 50s. How many will they win in the 60s? 2, 1, 0, 3?
With this,
who knows?
With this quarterback, with this core, with this GM, I'll say at least one.
I'm saying at least one. I agree, Jeff.
Ultimate team game, Jeff Kerr. Have they lost too much to do back-to-back, though?
I said on record, I don't think they're going back-to-back, and I hope I'm wrong. but I just don't see it's really hard to do. But I still think they're positioned to win another one with this core.
Yeah, I mean, only 15 teams have done it of the 59 winners in Super Bowl history, Jeff. Only 15 have returned to win a repeat, so it's 15% around. And I think I saw, I don't know if it was Jimmy Kempski. I'd like to give him a shout out, but somebody put out a breakdown of the last 20 years since 2000 or 20-something years since 2000. I think only 2 winners since 2000 have repeated, and obviously one was the Kansas City Chiefs, and I think the other one was it the
New
Ravens?
England. It was New
Oh,
England.
New England.
Yeah.
Right, New
Of
England.
course, they had the 2 greatest quarterbacks of
Yeah.
this century.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So if Jalen and the Eagles were to do it, boy, there's going to be some conversation. There
It's
already
an uphill
is.
battle, but I think the team. I don't think if they lose, it'll be because of the losses on defense. Now, maybe I just think last year
That defense
everything
gets
worked.
no respect, man.
No, but
None.
I'm saying everything worked. Like the complementary nature of that team last year, it was like magic. I think recreating that magic is going to be harder than getting.
By the way,
defensive
is
tackle
Saquon
that can
Barkley
play.
going to run for 2,500 yards again? I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I don't think so. And that's part of it. What is Saquon's shelf life?
I think he's got 3
you
more
say
years.
that, all right, and you say, okay, Saquon, and I'm with you, by the way. I don't think so either. I think it's unlikely for him to have the most rushing yards in the history of the NFL, all right? But what changes then for the Eagles this year? If you're the Eagles, and they're probably thinking the same thing, they got a bunch of analytics guys in the room. I'm sure there's guys saying, hey, guys, the odds of this happening again are unlikely. What's different this year? What does this offense have to do differently this year to compete at the highest level if Saquon Barkley's not able to do it?
I think they got past Baltimore, honestly. I mean, last year the run game worked.
How dare you?
And look, I argued it last year too. We're going to stick with the run game and use pass game as a complementary weapon. But this year, get the ball to A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, no matter what you do.
No Dallas Goedert, perhaps.
Well, you know what? I still think they want to give Jahan Dotson the ball more than maybe some would care to admit.
I don't know. I don't know if that's the case. And I like Jahan. I think Jahan is really underrated. I think for the first time, and you saw him, the whole thing was with Quez Watkins was just make the play when it comes to you. He couldn't do it. Dotson did it.
He did. That was the difference in the Super Bowl, honestly.
Yeah. And he's a good player, and I think you're better. He's not great, but I think you're better equipped to handle a game or two without one of the star receivers because he can play a little bit. But I just don't think they get the football. I think it's over a wide range. They don't get the football to the third receiver. It's just there's only one football. Yada.
By the way, John, you're right about the whole Quez Watkins, Jahan Dotson thing. It wasn't talked about a lot last year because Quez Watkins did have those key drops and key fumbles, but that was one of their sneaky good replacements in the offseason.
Yeah. Oh, I agree wholeheartedly. I think people shat on Jahan Dotson way too much. I think it was more about him not getting involved. They just don't get that player involved. Now, maybe that changes without Dallas Goedert. Maybe they ship that to, all right, he's really the third option.
Right.
Maybe that turns into Jahan Dotson more than Grant Calcaterra, whomever, if they don't have Dallas Goedert.
Jahan was such a team player, too. We would talk about this stuff on the record, off the record, and he would always just be consistent with it. When it's my time, just gotta catch it.
Yeah, and he did. And he can get open, and he can do a lot of different things. But it's similar to. It's not that Saquon Barkley can't catch the football, although he struggles occasionally. But they're not going to
catch a football.
They're not going to throw the football a lot to the back. That's just not what they do at this stage. Doesn't matter who it is. That's why DeAndre Swift left.
Yeah. By the way, is DeAndre Swift still a free agent?
Is he a free agent? I thought he was under contract for 2 years.
Oh, was it a 2-year deal?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
I believe.
I thought he had a 1-year, $8 million deal, but I could be really wrong.
No, he's under contract. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So he got another year. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was weird because I'm like, wait a minute, I don't think he's a free agent, but I could be dead wrong on that.
But occasionally we talk about this team and talk about Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, and Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper, all the young players, all the players that are talking about extensions. If you want to, Cam Jurgens will be upcoming. All these younger players and saying, well, this team's set up. Well, yes and no. I mean, they were a pretty good team in 2022, obviously. I still think they were the best team in that Super Bowl, Super Bowl 57, but they didn't win. The guy who got him over the top was Saquon Barkley. And his shelf life, just from the nature of the position, isn't as long as those other shelf lives.
Yeah. I mean, you run for 2,000 yards in a season. I wrote about this during the year, and I rehashed it after the year. The most anyone's ever gotten after a 2,000 yard season, the year after, was Barry, and he was 31, and then he retired. So, I mean, Derrick Henry's gotten 1,900 yards again, and Derrick Henry's a freak of nature, by the way.
Yeah,
but so is Saquon.
Saquon is too, but yeah. I mean,
you know what? I was secretly joking, and with a couple people, I won't mention any names, but when they did not play Saquon that week, I was like, I kind of hope Derrick Henry passes him. I just want this. I wanted chaos at that point.
Yeah, that wouldn't.
And he came. And he came close.
That would not have went over well if he did pass him. No. And Philadelphia wouldn't have went over well.
No, I mean, can you imagine running for 2,000 yards and not being the Russian champion? Then you'd have to say, well, the 16 game thing. It'd be the whole game thing all over again.
It's so bizarre to me. Like, and to his credit, I don't think Saquon gave two shits about it. Like, why would anybody care about that record over where they were as an obvious Super Bowl contender? And if he sprains his ankle in a meaningless game.
Yeah.
You know
what, John? But you and I said it. We knew they were going to rest him after he got 2,000. Yeah. Because they took him out with 11 minutes left.
Right. They took him out that game.
Yeah.
Like he might have gotten another 50, 60 yards in that game.
The fact
you guys might rip me for this. I still wish he got the record.
Well, I
don't have any problem with somebody wishing he had the record.
Yeah.
I'm talking about from a logic standpoint. I don't know why anybody would even have that argument. It's like, if you're a 10-6 team, go for it. Who gives a shit?
Right.
Go for it.
But they weren't 10-6.
No.
They were 13-3.
If you're a legitimate Super Bowl contender, I mean, it's not even a debate.
So, selfishly, John, I wanted them to be in the running for home field advantage that last week because you had to play him then. And that was a way he could pass Dickerson.
Yeah.
You know what? I love Eric Dickerson. I interviewed him. I know people on his team. I sent to people on his team when he was going off about the whole 16. I did 16 games. Like, dude, get out of here, man. You broke OJ's record in 15. Get out of here.
Well, I mean, and that's another thing. I'm like, and Saquon himself said, because Saquon loves Barry Sanders so much.
Oh my God.
And he's like, Barry could have done it 5 times if he wanted to. If he wanted to be selfish, and he could have done it. And he's probably right.
My favorite conversations with Saquon this year were just about the history of the running back position. And we were just going off on a tangent about, he goes, how can a guy average 150 rushing yards per game? We were talking about Jim Brown. And he goes, and I'm like, yeah, OJ did it in 14 and he was 147. He goes, that's crazy. How do you do that? Like, it's like you watch these guys play and it's a different era, but everybody knows they're getting the ball and they still just pound you to the dirt.
Yeah, we brought up, as one of the listeners brought up an NFL all-time Mount Rushmore. The only one I said right away was Jim Brown. That's the only one I don't debate.
That was the first one you rattled off, John.
I have 2 I don't debate: Jim Brown and Reggie White.
Yeah, to me, it's Lawrence
John didn't
Taylor.
have Reggie.
No, to me, it's Lawrence Taylor.
Trust me, I got some big flack from Giants fans, and I put Reggie over Lawrence Taylor. And I said, well, if you go by longevity, it's Reggie. If you go by prime, It's close.
Yeah, I just the people I've talked to about LT, it's just
Man, Reggie with the Eagles was a monster. 124 sacks in 121 games. If he had 21 sacks in 12 games once.
You can go back before they counted, and Reggie was before that as well. But Deacon Jones, I mean,
Deacon Jones had I think Pro Football Reference actually.
Yeah, they went back and did it all. Yeah,
and he had 3 sack seasons.
Yeah. So I mean, that's what I mean. You can debate Joe Green.
Oh yeah. Do you imagine how many sacks he had?
Joe Green to me was better than, I better not go down that route, but I'm in Philadelphia.
It's a shame that I know a teammate of Real Joe Green who's not with us right now. I would have texted him.
Yeah, I mean, my point is with there's debate, there's legitimate. Jim Brown is like, all right, everybody's like, all right, you're right.
Jim Brown's the standard.
Yeah. And it's probably the closest is Jerry Rice, I would say, to Jim Brown in the modern.
Do you remember when ESPN had Sports Century and they did the 50 greatest athletes in the 20th century?
Yeah, the Jordan one? Yeah.
Yeah. And remember, everybody's making, I'm like, I was wondering what football player, I knew it was going to be Jim Brown, but I'm like, where's he going to end up? He ended up fourth. I'm like, boy, that's an impressive list if he's fourth. And it was.
Yeah.
It was Wayne, Wayne was ahead of him. Jordan and Babe.
Those things are always generally, more modern centric because you want to interest people who are watching.
Not that one. Babe Dickinson was in the top 10.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but he's the one guy where and him and Barry are so interesting because they both retired early. They were both so dominant. I don't think Barry Sanders ever had a season where he didn't have 1,000 yards.
Barry Sanders never had a season where he wasn't an all-pro.
Yeah, he was amazing. But even that, I can argue, and I argued last week, people would. I remember people would kill Wayne Fonts for not playing him at the goal line, and I'm like, well, he dances around.
Yeah, he's not a straight runner.
Yeah, you want a north-south guy at the goal line. So I always thought, I made this with Adrian Peterson because Zander asked me who was better, and I said, well, you're asking who's the better runner? Who'd you say, Zander? Adrian and Marshall Faulk and LaDainian Thomas. Who's the better runner? Adrian Peterson. Who's the better running back? Marshall Faulk 1, LaDainian Tomlinson 2, Adrian Peterson 3. Because they were more well-rounded.
Prime Marshall Faulk was one of the best football players I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I say the same thing about Emmitt Smith and Barry Sanders. Who's the better runner? Barry Sanders. Who's the better running back? Emmitt Smith. Better pass receiver, better pass blocker.
This is where I'll always defend Eagles fans when they have to put up with the Jalen Hurts from opposing fans. Oh, Jalen Hurts, his team's loaded. Kurt Warner's team was loaded too.
Every team is loaded. Every Super Bowl champion is loaded.
Joe Montana's team was loaded. Steve Young's team was loaded.
Wait,
even
Jeff,
the Giants. Even the Giants.
Jeff, could you rattle off your Mount Rushmore for us? Do you have it on the top of your head? It might be hard to do. I'll give you John before I ask you to give me yours. John's was Jim Brown, Joe Montana, Lawrence Taylor, and Jerry Rice.
Jim Brown, Reggie White, Jerry Rice. See, this is where it gets tough. Because I'm such a Barry fan. I mean, do you really put two running backs on there?
Neither of you guys.
I tried to split it up. I tried to put it.
I mean, look, but there's so many good quarterbacks. I mean, I want to go Brady.
No, that's what John was saying too. But if you want to go quarterback only, we can have a different combo.
The only reason my argument for Montana over Brady, I think, was more difficult to play the position, so I give him more credit. I think it's easier to play the position now. Yeah, I do.
I mean, it's weird. I want to put an offensive lineman on there, but I can't pick a tackle. I can't pick a guard. That's why I'm going my Rushmore is based off dominance,
right,
just absolute dominance. Oh, Don Hudson. That's who I'll go with.
That's a good one. That's going old school.
So I was at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and they're like, "You name all 15 players on here." Everybody started. I'm like, "Yeah, bum."
I would pick I would pick Jeff.
Oh, they were so pissed
every time.
And like, no one could get Don Hudson or Otto Graham or slinging Sammy Ball. I'm just like, boom.
I'll tell you what, I'm with you because I think offensive line play is. I want to put somebody on there, but I can't just because nobody gives them credit. But if I did put one on there, it would be Anthony Munoz.
He was in my in the back of my brain. I'm like, okay, Munoz would be on there. Orlando Pace would be on there for the modern guys. I mean, linebacker. I mean, you could go Lawrence Taylor. You can go Ray Lewis. There's so many. Jack Ham, Jack Lambert. It's cornerback. Who do you like? If
I did one post 2000 or like modern NFL talk too. That was.
I think post 2000 is always a fair one to do.
Yeah, it's harder. It's hard because you could.
Well, I gotta look at the years.
You could just go, Brady, Manning, Breeze, and Rodgers and be done with it. But it's not that fun. So we did one quarterback and then we did the rest non-quarterbacks. But still fun.
I want to pick a safety too, but it's so hard to pick a safety.
Right.
Yeah. Not a lot of safeties in the Hall of Fame.
No, there aren't. It was a very neglected position until about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But but it's like we said, if I'm going by dominance, that's why I put Don Hudson there. The guy he was like the only receiver to have a triple crown until Jerry Rice got it.
Yeah, and now Chase got one, Cooper's got one, Chase got one last year.
Oh, I had some people riled up when I did the greatest individual seasons ever, and Cooper was ahead of Saquon. But if I remember that 21 season very well, you could not stop Cooper Kupp like Saquon. You just couldn't stop him.
Yeah, there's so many good offensive linemen. I'd pick John Hanna at guard.
That's a good one.
I'd pick Mike Webster at center. And
I had that debate with people. Who was a better center, Webster or Kelsey? And I couldn't pick one.
Yeah, with all due respect to Jason,
Mike Webster was really, really good.
Anthony Munoz at tackle. And that's my offensive lineman. A lot of good ones though. Randall McDaniel, Larry Allen at guard are in the conversation. You mentioned Orlando Pace, Jonathan Ogden. I would put very high.
Ravens was it that year the Ravens got Jonathan Ogden and Ray Lewis?
Yeah. That was a great draft. That made Ozzy.
How about the OG Bob Brown? That's a
yes. Yeah, I like that one. That's a
Bob
good one.
Brown. I don't think he's in that category, but
Bob Brown was my dad's favorite Eagle growing up. Him and Timmy Brown. They were my dad's favorite Eagles.
So there's give the offensive linemen some love. Certainly in the modern era, the Eagles have a bunch in that, but if you want to go way back, Munoz is like a 10-time All-Pro. I'd have to look it up.
You know what, John? Next time the whole Jalen Hurts play, like you said, all the Super Bowl teams are loaded. I'm just gonna go down the 1978 Steelers.
Oh my God!
Oh my God! Was that team just loaded across the board?
Well, there was no free agency, so they got this great group of players, and they had them forever. Nobody went anywhere. It's just a different time. That's why I can't, like when people say, and I think the Eagles had one of the best teams of the modern generation. I agree. Jeffrey Lurie kind of innovated that, and I agree with him. But I can't compare them to those teams in the 70s because they just were.
Yeah, no one left.
No one, Hall of Famers all over the place.
Yeah,
all over.
That's why the Eagles could never get good because they never had good players.
Yeah, and the Steelers were the best, and they have so many Hall of Famers.
Do you think we'll ever see 4 Super Bowls in, what was it, 6 years? They ended up.
Well, the Patriots. What was their biggest run? I don't.
They had 3 and 4.
Threes, right? Didn't they have 3 and then they had a 10-year period?
Yeah, they had a big period in between.
Yeah, they had 3 and 4, and then it was.
But that's why I think
3 and 4 twice. I think what it was.
I think the Patriots
or 2 and 3. 2 and 3. Yeah.
And Tom's success kind of broke people in their evaluation system.
And the Chiefs' success.
John always says that Tom Brady broke people when it comes to quarterback. I don't think
he did break them.
He did.
Yeah.
I remember when they got Randy Moss. I'm starting to think, wow, Tom Brady.
That's the best team they ever had, and they didn't win.
Yeah, I always say, like, when they got him, I'm like, wow, Tom Brady was really good before he had a good receiver.
The best team they ever had didn't win. That's another thing people should pay attention to.
You know, it's funny. Like, people think all reporters bait when they have to do those lists of greatest teams of all time. They put the 07 Patriots. I'm like, you remember the 07 Patriots? They just obliterated everybody.
Yeah.
They just didn't win the Super Bowl.
Now, that's one of the things Jody and I used to bang heads on all the time. I couldn't understand, for somebody who's been around as long as Jody, like he would say, well, they're the best team because they won. I'm like, there's upsets every day in sports. That's why we watch sports.
It's literally.
You know, the 1984 Dolphins are one of the best teams in NFL history, but they lost Super Bowl at 49. Oh, by the way, who are considered one of the best teams in NFL history. They play the juggernaut in the Super Bowl.
I mean, the Giants weren't better than that. That's the team I always use. Does anyone really believe the Giants were better than that Patriots team?
No. Does anyone think the 01 Patriots were better than the Rams? No.
No.
The 01 Rams.
Oh, they were phenomenal.
The 01 Rams beat upstart Eagles team in the NFC Championship game. I thought the Eagles played their asses off that game. I thought the Eagles were going to get killed. And they were winning at halftime. The game was, they were 52 yards away from beating that team. And everybody loves to blame McNabb. I said, the Rams are really, really, really freaking good.
Yeah. But the best team does not always win. The best team on that day wins. But
well, that's what makes football great, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's what used to make the tournament great. Until it was one seed against one seed.
Until it was NIL. We got to wait for the Final Four for good games.
Yeah, well, there were good games. Duke botched that. Wait, one other sports thing I got to ask Jeff about. We didn't hit it in the open of the show because Jeff's a sports guy all around. Did you happen to catch Ovechkin breaking Gretzky's goal record?
I was covering the Phillies game at the time, but I knew he did it, and I thought it was awesome.
I'm not even a hockey guy. I thought that was cool.
Yeah,
and I texted to people. I said, "Wow, that's pretty cool," because I'm not a hockey guy. I didn't even know it was coming. If you would have told me, anybody would have broke.
The guy missed 6 weeks with a broken leg or foot or whatever it was this year. I forget what it was.
But the immediate I got back was, well, Gretzky has so many assists and he'd have to play. And I'm like, dude, all I said is it's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, though.
This record was never supposed to be
it was
broken.
never going to be touched.
This was never going to be touched. Now, Gretzky's a different breed. Gretzky's still the GOAT. I mean, you brought up the assist. He had like 1,000 more points than Ovechkin just off of assist because he was that insane. But guys, he's 39. He broke his fibula this year. He comes back, doesn't miss a beat, and immediately continues to score goals at a high rate. 39, misses 5 weeks for a broken fibula, comes back, and he's going to have another 40-goal season.
To me, the coolest thing I've seen in sports in this young season was I was watching hockey on TNT, I think it was a couple weeks ago, and of course, the Ovechkin stuff, he's about 10 or 11 away at this point, right? And of course, I'm following along and it wasn't an Ovechkin game, and Wayne Gretzky comes on the TNT show every week. And he said, when Alex gets there, I will be there because Gordie Howe was there for mine, and I want to keep that tradition alive.
That was pretty dope, Jeff.
Gretzky said, I can't wait till he does it. That's awesome.
Gretzky was really cool. Not everybody would handle that like the way Gretzky did. I thought that was pretty dope the way. Gretzky
is a student of the game, and you love that. I love that in sports.
And here's what I love about Philly fans. Ready? Mitch Cobb will be special too. We're talking about two of the greatest hockey players of all time. Mitch Cobb might be okay, Stephen Patton.
Well, hold on. I think Mitch Cobb is 873 away. If I'm correct, he has 22 goals this season. So there we go.
Love Philly fans.
By the way, guys, don't you love how I always say I don't care about the Flyers, and yet I kind of know.
I love the optimism. I love the optimism.
Mitch Cobb. We're talking about the two greatest hockey players of all time, probably. Good stuff. Gotta love it. Stephen Patton, thank you, brother. Good comment there.
Hey, Xander, what'd you think of the Formula One race yesterday while we were on the break?
I didn't wait, though. Yeah, Verstappen won. That was pretty good. That was a good race. That was a really good race. He got pole, so he started at the jump. That was one of those races. But, boy, McLaren's fast this year, Jeff. I think they're going to win it.
Oh, my God, yeah. Well, you know what the biggest dynamic in that season's going to be? The whole dynamic yesterday. Norris and Piastri.
Right.
Okay, and one's
Piastri's
faster than the other.
Now you guys are. I'm going to have to bring it back to wrestling because
you were speaking in tongues.
Xander and I should text Xander.
Yeah, you text me. I'll talk about F1.
I should text Xander the day they replaced Liam Lawson with Yuki Tsunoda. Yeah. I was beside. I'm like, oh my god, they did it.
Well, they should have started the season with Yuki. I mean, they've been waiting for him in the minor. I mean, with AlphaTauri or whoever. What are they now?
They are
Bulls or something.
Yeah, they are Red Bulls now.
Yeah,
or
Red
Racing
Bull.
Bull.
Racing Bulls. Yeah, that's what I knew.
Last year they were Visa Red Bull or something.
Yeah, which is kind of a stupid name, but
I call it the minor league team, but it's not really. It's more like a junior team.
Have you ever been to? I'm sure you've been to an F1 race before, right?
I've been to an F1 practice. I've never been to a race.
I went to the one in Miami. I want to say the first year it was here, Jeff. It would have been 21 or 20.
How many do they have in the United States?
Now they're up to three, right?
They're up to three now.
Yeah, they got Miami, they got Texas, and then they have Vegas now. Yep, Vegas was
really pretty cool when you see them going through.
The Vegas it's something.
Yeah, Miami was insane. I went to Miami, like I said, the first year they were there. I never saw a sporting event like that in my life. Now, you walk to a concession stand, and and it's $95 for a hat. I'm like,
I won't buy
a hat. How do you charge It's a hat. It's the same New Era hat I buy for the Eagles and the Phillies, and it's $95.
You know what's funny, Xander? You just get it off Fanatics, and you get it like for that price.
Yeah. But you're there, and they rope you in with these big tents and everything. But yeah, I was pissed at that. But no, it was a crazy event, man. Seeing those cars go by is something else.
Yeah, well, I as you guys know, I'm a big NASCAR fan. I love going to NASCAR races.
Yeah, we had Jeff. Well, I told you one of our great supporters here works like deep in NASCAR. He does videography for drivers and stuff. So he's in all the pit lanes and stuff. He has a really awesome. Cool job. You would like his job, and his job is dope.
Yeah, and I've met tons of NASCAR drivers in the past, and I know a lot currently on just from meeting them at autograph stuff like over the years, or like NASCAR used to have like they call it a fan fest, right? And it was Hall of Fame weekend when they were really trying to blow up the Hall of Fame, and you got to meet pretty much like every driver. Everybody is so chill. Like I'm talking to Brad Keselowski for an hour and a half about beer while he's signing autographs for people.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like Kevin Harvick and I were talking about the Flyers because he was really good friends with Jeff Carter at the time. I'm talking with Jeff Gordon about how he used to screw over Rusty Wallace in races. And Rusty Wallace is my favorite driver. And he's like, oh, yeah, I got some stories there. And he's telling you, like, behind the scenes stuff. He's like, are you a journalist by any chance? I'm like, I am in another life. I'm not today.
Dan Gelston's a big NASCAR guy. You should.
Dan Gelston and I were talking about the Daytona 500 at the game yesterday.
There we go. Yeah. God bless you.
Yeah, I've taught our reporters about bowling too. So
that's true.
As everybody knows, I'm a good bowler. Not a great bowler, but a good bowler.
You're a great bowler. You're being humble.
You guys say I'm a great bowler. I say I'm a good bowler.
I don't know. I've never seen you bowl, but I like to believe that you're.
Well, I bowl with a lot of great bowlers. I bowl with great bowlers, so I'm a good bowler.
Jeff, how about this? You're on my Mount Rushmore of bowlers that I know.
That Mount Rushmore is falling apart.
No, it's Jeff Kerr right now, and you stand alone. I have not yet added anybody else to the Mount Rushmore of bowlers. But
there used to be a famous Eddie something. The most famous bowler of all is what the hell was his name?
E. Weber?
Phil McCracken.
Oh, Phil McCracken. I thought we were going real low.
Bill McCracken from Kingpin.
Yeah, I love Phil.
That was Bill Murray in Kingpin.
Kingpin's a great movie.
Roy Munson, I believe, was
that famous video? You guys know that viral video that people use all the time. Who do you think you are?
No, that actually happened. That
was a bowler, right? That was bowling. That was
Pete Weber.
That's who I was. Pete Weber.
Okay,
that's who.
He won the U.S. Open, and he was yelling at some heckler because he needed 3 strikes to win the U.S. Open, and he's like, I think he's like 48, 49 at the time, so he was past his prime. That was his last major, and some guys like heckling him in the crowd. And he needed 3 strikes to win, and he got all 3 in the last one. He just decided to be Pete Weber.
Yeah, he's like the real life Phil McCracken, right?
He is the real life Phil. Oh, there's a 30 for 30 on him, Pete Weber.
Yeah. That's who I was trying to come up with, Pete Weber.
Yeah, you know it's funny. I tell people for my racing community, he's like Dale Earnhardt Jr., but he won a lot more. And Dale Earnhardt Jr. won a lot, but Pete Weber won a lot more than his father did, as far as a legend.
All right. Well, you got it all today with Jeff Kerr.
Yeah. Last question, Jeff.
F1. Yeah.
The
all
last
of it.
question,
NASCAR.
I want to ask him, you got the Braves coming up. What are they, like 1-7 to start?
And they're not hitting, but I'll tell you what, for you baseball fans out there, you're getting Chris Sale and Zach Wheeler on Tuesday.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's going to be a good game. You like
Can't wait.
to go 4 straight series wins to start the season. I mean, I had people in the chat. Brian Pumper back on the list of bad takes, telling me the Phillies are going to get swept by the Dodgers and they win the series.
Whoa!
I know it's early, but
2 or 3
series wins.
But by the way, I'll defend Brian on this. You guys know what the total score was in all 3 games?
Well, they won by 1 run and 1 run, right?
Right.
Well,
So
12-12. So they were even.
I mean, very close.
Pitched to Ohtani, though. Ohtani was what, 1 for 10 in the series?
1 for 11 in the series.
1 for 11? Yeah, there you go.
Christopher Sanchez was just the 11th pitcher to strike out Shohei Ohtani 3 times in the game.
Yeah. There you
Well,
go.
the key to baseball is winning series. Just win series. And they won the series.
Yep. Rob Thompson said yesterday, I was talking to him, and he goes, well, there's 52 series in a year, and if you win 30, it's a really good year. And I said,
that's true.
I said, wait a minute. How do you know there are 52 series in a year? He goes, I get bored.
Hey, that's it. Yeah, he knows. You just win your series, bang.
I always
say,
really
good team.
I always say these guys think these coaches and managers know nothing. It's so funny how much they forget compared to how much someone actually knows.
Well,
you've been good with Rob Thompson so far this year.
I love Rob Thompson.
Yeah.
I've always loved Rob.
I got in fights with people last year at the end of the season. Fire Rob. I'm like, don't fire Rob.
Okay, this is my tangent here. You were not watching the Phillies before Rob Thompson showed up. Now you are.
What's going on with Freddie Freeman? Single-handedly won the MVP. He's not playing, right?
Yeah, I think
he's out.
He didn't play in the Phillies series. Yeah, he's
out. He's on the IL.
Day, so I don't think he's out too long, but he's out.
I'll tell you what, the Dodgers are still loaded. They don't even need him.
No, they needed him in the World Series.
Well, you know, John, your boy Esther Cortez gave up 4 consecutive home runs. If you count Freddie Freeman's
nasty Nestor, yeah, nasty. He used to be nasty about 3 years ago, but now he pitches batting practice. Yeah.
And by the way, John, is the AL MVP race over?
Well, no, because Ohtani's there.
He's not in the AL anymore.
No, AL. Oh, AL. I thought you said NL.
Yeah, you said NL.
Yeah, I thought you said NL. AL, yeah, I called that in day 2 after Nestor pitched. Gave up all those home runs there.
Yeah.
But I mean, Aaron Judge wins it every year anyway, if he's healthy. His problem is he's got to hit in October.
Yeah, I mean, come on, let's be real here.
You know what I call the AL MVP award, like as an historian, the Babe Ruth Award. You know, the AL had honored an MVP 15 years before the National League actually decided to honor an MVP. And every year in the 1920s, Babe Ruth, Babe Ruth, Babe Ruth, Babe Ruth, Babe Ruth.
Oh, yeah.
Lou Gehrig, Babe Ruth, Babe Ruth.
Well, and it should be the Babe Ruth Award, and it is. So, you know.
He's won 9 of them.
Yeah. Well, you know, and the dominance for those historians, like when Babe was hitting like 40, 50 home runs, like number 2 was like 15.
Yeah. They had a guy named Frank Home Run Baker, and he was called home run because he would hit 10 in the season.
Yeah, exactly. So different time, but yeah.
If you could go back in time to watch anybody play sports, I think mine would be Babe Ruth.
Oh, that's a good question.
That would be a good one. I saw a social media video of him, and I don't know, it might have been like AI created or something of him.
It might have been.
Him like signing a contract and they like put it into color. That time was insane of him. Like he's just sitting there reading the contract, like looks good, signs the contract. I don't know if it was real or not, but that would be pretty crazy to see Babe Ruth.
That Babe, I'll tell you what, when you watch like archive footage of Babe Ruth or see old picture, man, it's like, wow, this was life back then.
Yeah, no, it's crazy to think about how far our society has come.
Yeah. Because the Babe Ruth, there is an actual Babe Ruth Award.
There is, yes.
But that's for like postseason, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I thought. That's for like Freddie Freeman should have won. I don't know if he won it, but he should have won it. But I guess it's the whole postseason. No, Mookie Betts won it. It's the whole postseason.
Yeah, it's the whole postseason. Which,
Yeah.
by the way, Babe Ruth was insane in the postseason.
Yeah. Yes, he was.
So was Lou Gehrig. Yeah, talking about loaded team. Are we diminishing Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig's legacy because they were on loaded baseball teams? That's gonna be my comeback.
Well, a lot of people disparage Babe Ruth because obviously it was,
Segregated.
So a lot of people just.
But again, how do we know? Like we don't. Like I respect Josh Gibson as much as I do Babe Ruth. I'm a baseball historian. I go to Baseball Hall of Fame. I'm in that part of the Baseball Hall of Fame all the time. I love watching that stuff. The Negro Leagues, the women's stuff, they have like videos in there of it.
Yeah,
it's
there's
awesome.
a lot of history there, no doubt. What's the best Hall of Fame you've been to, Jeff? I'm sure you've been to them all, right? I've been to the only one I've been to is the Hockey Hall of Fame, which is awesome.
Baseball, you can be in there for days and days and days. Canton, I feel like you should spend at least a day there.
Yeah, I think the baseball one's best because it's got more history, to be honest. So I would say baseball's best.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me for you, John, as a historian guy.
A guy I wish, this is where I get mad at the whole segregated thing in baseball. I hate
the sorry, Jeff. I hate the Baseball Hall of Fame because Bonds and Clemens aren't in it. Like,
right?
Like, to me, it's a museum. You're telling the history of the game.
Right. You're telling the story of baseball. You cannot tell the story without those guys.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's so tough too. Like, by the way, my additional point was I would love to see Saffold Page pitch against those guys. I would love to see Jackie Robinson play when he was younger against those guys. I mean, obviously Jackie's a Hall of Famer. Saffold Page is a Hall of Famer. But I would love to see Saffold Page pitch in the 30s and 40s. I digress. But yeah, you're right, John. Like, this is where it's tough for me. Like, Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens aren't in because of what they allegedly did. Pete Rose isn't in because he bet on baseball. Okay, fine. There's such a gray area, though. Like, Cap Batson's in and owned, he had his questionable pick. Ty Cobb is one of the most questionable individuals of all time. But they're in. But again, they're bad humans. They're bad humans.
Speaking of Hall of Fames, does anybody give a shit about the Basketball Hall of Fame? Because some of the names I saw them putting in on the Basketball Hall of Fame.
We just talked about Joel Embiid's going to be a Hall of Fame.
I'm like, what the hell's going on? No wonder Jeff says Joel Embiid.
Well, the one thing, because when I covered, I think a lot of people don't understand. Like, the Hall of Fame, like the Pro Football Hall of Fame, is called the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It's not the NFL Hall of Fame, but it is an NFL Hall of Fame. So the Pro Basketball Hall of Fame is a legitimate professional basketball. They induct women, they induct foreign. So in a lot of ways, it's more representative of the sport as a whole, because there are a lot of people elsewhere that should be in the Hall of Fame. It's a worldwide sport. But if people don't know them, they don't care. So the only ones that matter are Dwight Howard and Carmelo Anthony, who are both deserving Hall of Famers. But yeah, I mean, who's going? Sue Bird, I think, is going in. Was she?
Yeah, Sue Bird's going in.
I mean, she's a Hall of Famer. Are you kidding me? It's the Pro Basketball Hall of Fame.
The whole Redeem team's going in.
Yeah. The other sports don't. Well, in baseball.
I mean, I loved Dwight Howard when I was a kid. He was dominant. Is he a Hall of Fame?
Oh God, yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, he's a very good player. I mean, later in his career when he's with the Sixers, and even then, the Sixers not took credit, but they congratulated him, put him in a Sixers uniform.
I mean, he did play for him.
Yeah, he did. But I mean, he's like, I'm looking him up. Yeah, he's 6-time All-NBA player, All-NBA, 7-time
I remember when he was dominant on the Magic and
stuff. He took a bad Magic team to the finals.
Yeah, I remember that.
He's an easy Hall of Famer. Like, he's not a questionable Hall of Famer. He's a big-time player. One of the things I find, I have a really difficult time with younger players more than older players because I get to see them. And you build up these legends into something that probably more than they really are. So for me, it's always tough. I have to be very careful when I'm talking about football Hall of Famers. I'm like, Because immediately until I started talking, like I saw Kelsey every day. Like I don't put him on the same level. I just didn't with Mike Webster. I just don't. I can't. And that could be a mental block of my own. But I do that at every position. It's not an Eagles thing. It's like,
it's tough.
Well, yeah, but he's not Jim Brown. He's not John Hanna. He's not
baseball.
Legends.
Baseball to me is the toughest sport to pick a Hall of Fame.
Well, baseball to me is the easiest because it's such a statistical game.
It is, but it's still hard because there are guys I'm like, I get it, but man, I don't think he is. It's weird.
But it's all modern guys, right? Like, you're talking about compilers, basically. Guys who get to back when 500 home runs meant more.
Right.
Like they were an automatic Hall of Famer. 3,000 hits.
It was weird. Like when Jim Rice got in, I was torn because I'm like, I get it. Jim Rice was before my time. I go by what other people tell me about Jim Rice, but
see, Jim Rice is like, I compare Jim Rice to like a Terrell Davis.
Yes.
Like for a short period, he was unbelievable.
But Freddie Lynn was really good for a short period too.
Yeah. But he wasn't Jim Rice. Jim Rice was like, George Foster was the same way. If you remember George Foster.
Oh, yeah. And I thought everybody on the Big Red Machine was getting in the Hall of Fame, but George Foster don't get in.
Yeah. Well, you didn't do it long enough. So baseball, that to me is the most difficult part. Like a lot of people put emphasis on longevity. I think if you put because I'm a big Mattingly guy, but I'm biased, but like he had a 6-7 year span, which was one of the greatest in baseball history. And then he had back problems.
It was better when they were both on the same team. Don Mattingly or Dave Winfield.
Oh, Mattingly at his height. But again, it was short. 6-7 years. But those 6-7 years are just ridiculous. And forget about it offensively. He was right there with Keith Hernandez as, the best, fielding first base.
And by the way, Keith ain't in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Or as far as I know, he's not. I don't remember.
But, it really is shorter than that. Now they look at it. So 84, 85, 86, and then 87. So really 4-year span. So I get why he's not in the Hall of Fame. But at that, he was 343 and remember, this is a different era where batting average meant something. And it was, 343, 324, 352, 327. RBIs meant something. 145 1 year, 30 home runs every year, 200 hits every year, Gold Glove. But longevity is a big thing in baseball.
Yeah, it's weird too. Like when I do the 08 Phillies, like Chase Utley's probably gonna get in because of that 5-year stretch he had for his position at second base offensively. And I'm just like, look, I know Ryan Howard's never gonna get in the Baseball Hall of Fame, but there's a 4-year stretch there where he is just.
I know. Well, yeah, that I should have used him. Yeah, I'm glad you brought him up because he's the exact same thing. He was the most dominant player.
By the way, Albert Pujols was still doing his thing during the time, and he was beating them.
Yeah.
Like,
I'd like to look at in both the NBA and Major League Baseball, top 5 MVP finishes.
Yes. You're in the conversation.
Yeah.
Right. That's a good metric.
Yeah.
Well, like, look, even our boy Joel Embiid, how many times did he finish second?
Yeah, he's a Hall of Fame player.
Second's good.
It's just so disappointing.
Ryan Howard finished second in MVP a lot too.
Back to Joel Embiid. Jeff had to bring me back to Joel Embiid.
Well, what's sad for me with Joel Embiid, and part of it's health wise, but he's even like if he had a Michael Jordan work ethic, like he'd be one of the greatest players of all time.
If he took care of his body like LeBron takes care of his body, I mean, oh my goodness.
That's what I love when Shaquille O'Neal used to criticize like Embiid and a lot of these big men. I'm like, dude, Shaq, you were the laziest person you played, man.
Hey,
but you know, people don't know that.
Yeah, but here's the other thing, Jeff. Maybe Shaq sees something in Joel that he wishes he had.
Well,
himself.
he
Somebody's
does.
telling him, "Yo,
He
dude,
does,
fucking
but
live
I
up to
wish
your
he would.
potential." You know,
But I wish he would say that like himself, like, don't make the mistakes I made because you're not as
Right.
good. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like Shaq was good. Like, it didn't matter. Shaq could show up to camp 50 pounds overweight. He wasn't.
Yeah, it didn't
wasn't
matter
gonna-
at all. Shaq was a beast, no doubt about it. All right, Jeff,
I
man,
love
we've
Shaq.
been keeping you long, but I got to say, I love our tangents on all things sport. I know we're an Eagles show, but at the end of the day, it is the offseason, and we got plenty of stuff to talk about. And
By the way,
our
guys, all-season programs are starting today for the first
yeah,
year head coach.
yeah.
the Eagles are coming up, right? The Eagles are what? What did you say, John? We
April
said
21st.
Yeah,
They're
21st.
not. If you have a new coach, you're allowed to start a little bit earlier. And I was going to bring that up when I was trying to get you guys off the
F1
tangent.
Oh, yeah.
I lost my train of thought when I was trying to figure
We've
out.
hit everything today. We've hit baseball, hockey, basketball, football, F1. Bowling. We've hit it all, baby.
You know what we got to talk about on this show, like actual football related? Are OTAs and minicamps going to go away when the new CBA is signed?
Yeah, maybe.
It's a
But
good comment.
today's the Patriots, who have Mike Vrabel, obviously the Jets, who have Aaron Glenn, the Chicago Bears with Ben Johnson. They start today, the offseason workouts. The Raiders, Pete Carroll, and the Jags, the great Liam Cohen, start tomorrow. So there you have it.
But, you know, bringing back the whole OTA thing, I was hearing some stuff about the owners' meetings. Like, training camp might be starting earlier if the OTAs go away.
Like mid-July?
Probably, because they're going to get rid of a preseason game, and they want to. If they go to the 18-game season, they want to start.
When did they
Labor
start
Day.
last year? Because didn't they start in July last year? Like
Yeah,
late
they
July.
start late July.
Right,
Usually July 23rd, July 25th range.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's usually when they start.
But, you know, adding an extra week or two of training camp ain't going to kill anybody.
No, you could argue you're going to get more out of that than. But I do think the NFL is very cognizant of the calendar. Like, you know, they want to keep people involved.
The calendar
And even if OTAs don't mean as much as training camp practices to the coaches, it means something to the fans. And
yeah, I'll tell you right here, our metrics
the Eagles
go
have
up,
one mini camp
you know?
practice this year.
Our metrics go up.
only
They
have
go to
one.
OTAs. John gives me a report from OTAs, and our numbers go way up. So people care. I mean, I think that's
They do. It's
So the NFL cares about that. You know, the popularity thing.
I wrote an overreaction piece to minicamp last year. It was one of the best all-season content pieces CBS had, and mostly because it involved Aaron Rodgers and holdouts and other stuff like that. And I'm like, look, let's not care. I said Aaron Rodgers, and one of my topics was Aaron Rodgers missing minicamp is going to lead to a Jets losing season. And I said reality.
Wasn't he in Egypt or something?
Yeah, that was a whole thing about his vacation.
He already
planned.
planned
Do you
his
think
trip
he's going
to
to play
Egypt.
this year, Jeff, or what? What's going on?
I think he's waiting for the Vikings to call him.
He is. He's waiting for the Vikings.
Yeah.
He's waiting for the Vikings to see JJ McCarthy when they start OTAs and they go, "Oh fuck," and then the call comes.
Yeah,
That's
McCarthy,
exactly what he's waiting for.
You know what? That's one good thing about when you're a future Hall of Famer, you're in your 40s, and you're not good anymore. You can afford to either just walk away or just wait for someone to hand you another check, a loaded.
Hey, that's what Brett Favre did back-to-back
Well,
years.
what about Cousins? Where's Kirk Cousins going to go?
Kirk Cousins is waiting to be cut.
I think he's going to be in Cleveland. I think
so too.
Oh,
He was spotted like talking to Browns players or something last week.
He's not going back to Minnesota, is he? He would be great on that Minnesota team with all them receivers, and he'd be good there.
He's I would bet on him in Cleveland. He was in Cleveland, but not for a Browns thing. He was just there for some weird.
I saw him on a video. Who did I just see him on a video with? Was it John Gruden? John Gruden doing an unpackaging of some sort of box or something?
Yeah, he always opens boxes now.
Yeah. By
the way, did you see which quarterback decided not to do Gruden's QB camp this year.
The two top guys, Cam and Shador, I saw
Yeah.
didn't do it. Yeah, I thought they
They
should
don't
have
need
done
to
it.
do. They don't need to.
They don't want to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, you know
Jeff,
what? That's this generation. I'm not going to do anything to damage myself.
I know.
Yeah, Gruden opens up boxes of people that send him stuff like
Yeah, now with all
swag.
these schools and stuff, the
So,
swag,
yeah.
the team.
We got to do that on Birds. We got to do that on Birds
Yeah,
365.
so if anybody wants to send me some swag, send it.
Yeah. I'll have
Yeah.
John open it on camera and we'll post it up. All right. Send the boxes, everybody.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Here's my Manscaped trimmer.
There you go. We're not getting a good apparel from a team, I guess. But all right, Jeff, we got to run, brother. I appreciate you doing it and sticking around a long time. Great conversations on all things sports, Jeff. Make sure you guys follow Jeff at Jeff Kerr CBS, the best writer on CBS Sports. Jeff, we appreciate you, brother. We'll talk to you next week.
See you guys. Thanks.
Thanks,
All right.
bud.
There's Jeff joining us on Birds 365. Always fun talking all things. Boy, John, we've been around the world today when it comes to sports.
Yeah, real quick, what Jeff said, one thing I always have to say seemingly every year, there aren't no holdouts in voluntary work in the offseason. It is voluntary. So OTAs, you might hear that word when guys don't show up. It's not a holdout. The mini camps are mandatory.
Right.
If somebody's not at them, like he was talking about Aaron Rodgers, who was in Egypt, I think. He wasn't a holdout, but he told the team he wasn't coming. But anyway, yeah, just pet peeve. You can't hold voluntary work.
You think the Eagles are going to change that one that they have that's mandatory, the mandatory minicamp? I mean, they didn't have one last year, right? Any mandatory time?
No,
So
they had a mandatory one. In the past, they haven't. The COVID year and then the year coming off, they had a couple years where they didn't have a mandatory camp.
Okay. I was going to say, I
Next
thought I
year,
remember them not having
yeah,
one.
they had one last year. It's only one day this year scheduled. They could change it, but I doubt they're going to change it. It's been a long season for the Eagles.
No, yeah, it has. No doubt about it. I mean, I can't. It's April 7th. We got the draft at the end of the month. May, we're going to talk about the team post NFL draft, what they look like. June is the only really kind of downtime. And then July, they're heading back to camp. I'm like, the offseason's freaking coming and going faster than I can blink. So it's gonna get here quick, man. Especially that changes a lot, especially when your team plays for an extra 5 weeks. That's what happened with the Eagles. They played for an extra 5 weeks. And then the celebration, the parade another week. It was really an extra 6-7 weeks of football in Philadelphia for that. So good stuff there. But John, we didn't miss anything in Eagle Land, right? We updated on the top 30 visits. Nick Scorton from Texas A&M was in, and Jacob Parrish from Kansas State. Reminds me of my boy Barrett Brooks, former host on JAKIB, played at Kansas State. So Jacob Parrish came in, a cornerback, and defensive end Nick Scorton. But outside of that, quiet time as we get ready now for the NFL draft. I want to say we're 17 days out from the draft.
Yeah, it's getting close, man. Getting way too close. I got to start my preview soon on Sports Illustrated.
What day are we doing our mock, John? I know you're only going to do one, but we got to do one mock.
It's probably Wednesday. Thursday it's a draft. Probably that's when it comes out.
Oh, you're doing Wednesday. It the day before. You're not giving me any time to milk anything on it?
Well, that's when it comes out. So, I like to do
exclusive. It comes.
No, I mean, I'll do like Birds only, like Eagles only drafts. Okay. But as far as the first round mock,
yeah, right.
Because I'm trying to get as much information as possible.
Yeah, that makes sense.
About what teams are actually trying to do. So doing it now is just. It's what it is. It's what every mock draft is. It's just, hey, I'm going to throw some darts at the wall.
Right. Basically, who you want to see fall where.
Yeah.
It's how a lot of these people's work.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, I don't. Some people like them. I don't find much value in them, but I get it.
People want us to do them, though. The people have been asking for one. So, I'm gonna have to do one. I'll do an Eagles only one for sure. But like I said, I'm out of draft.
I'll let you know when I talk to my Eagles guy who gave me, and I always say, and you'll see me post the Roman Reigns acknowledge me clip if I get picks right. But I only get picks right because of the information I'm getting. And that's why I knew they were going to take Cam Jurgens if he was there at 51. That specific draft, I knew they were going to take Jordan Davis if they could get him. They targeted trade up to get him. So that's only because of information. It's not because I'm guessing right. So.
John, one last thing here. All right, we got about 7 minutes to go. And I feel like, look, we talked about bowling today. We got to end it off with some wrestling. I missed Friday because I was preparing to go traveling. I had all sorts of stuff. Anything happened in the wrestling world on Friday? You got Monday night tonight, and they're getting closer to Wrestlemania. I think it's like 20 days away. It's at some point this month. I know that. Right?
Yeah, April 19th before the draft. April 19th, April 20th.
Okay, there you go.
So yeah, big month.
Is that Easter weekend? I guess. Yeah, I guess that's Easter weekend. Yeah.
Well, Vegas paid them $5 million to come to Vegas for Easter weekend because they want, that's one of the few weekends where they take a little bit of a hit because people aren't going to Vegas.
They won't anymore. There'll be plenty of people who are, Who
so that's one of the reasons. Plus, they wanted to get away from the college basketball tournament. Also, Nick Khan, but mainly because they got $5 million as a site fee. So that's why it's a little bit later this year. But Tiffany Stratton and Charlotte Flair, who are in the women's title match, one of the women's title matches, they kind of went off script. So you should check that out. Good stuff.
I will check that out. We'll see.
Insulting each other.
Nice. I'll definitely check it out. Let's get to a couple of our super chats that we got today. Appreciate all you guys checking in. All of our great viewers. We always appreciate you guys being here. I think it's a fun time of the year. You can talk about a lot of things. There's a lot of different ways you can go. So we appreciate all you guys being here. Don't forget to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, drop a comment, anything down below. And we appreciate each and every one of you guys for being here. Brian Pupper checking in. Fellas, does look like it was reported that Oladejo, UCLA edge, and Trey Amos, Ole Miss cornerback, are visits as well. I love both players for 32. Pump, I didn't see it, but I will double check and see.
No, we've talked about it, Oladejo.
I know Oladejo, but Ole Miss. The only cornerbacks I heard.
Yeah, the Ole Miss cornerback I hadn't heard of. I'll tell you what, the cornerback stuff, if that's the case, and I missed it, something's going on there.
I've been following along on a couple people's trackers. I didn't see Trey Amos at all.
They're looking at cornerbacks, which surprises me, to be honest, considering where they are. And that, even before just Hairston and Parrish, I was like, why are they looking at corners? I don't know. That surprises me a little bit. Oladejo, to me, he's got a really big sort of landing area, There's people talking about him like Pumper there at 32. There's no way I'm taking him there. Way too raw. You already have a raw developmental prospect in Jalix Hunt. I want somebody who's going to play right away. Bang. Day one starter if possible. Scorton could be that if you trade down a little bit. I wouldn't think about him until the third round. Just started playing edge rusher, was an all-ball linebacker. But Pumper's point, a lot of teams like him because he's got a big upside. But, I don't think the Eagles are in the upside business or should be in the upside business, taking him that high. And if he falls, great. And when I said that originally, I got a lot because there's so much groupthink, and the groupthink is he's moving up. He's moving up. Well, they would have said the same thing about Ringo. See how it falls.
Right.
If he starts falling, go get him. But I have no way am I taking him at 32.
Yeah, I hear you. The cornerback thing is interesting because I'm with you. I was more thinking 2 picks last year, 2 top picks. I don't see it, but maybe they want to double dip and go, or triple dip, I guess you could say. Anwan Atkins, what's up, Anwan? He says, I love when you all talk about other sports. Well, we appreciate that. I'm sure not everybody loves it, Anwan. We have this guy here. He said, look, finally Eagles talk. KC, don't worry. We'll give you tons of Eagles talk all week as we always do. We had plenty today, but KC might have just checked in. So Casey, we appreciate you. But Amwan, thank you for the super chat, man. And I love talking about other sports too, because look, John's motto for the show is elevate the conversation. In fact, John, one of our great viewers, I think it was you, Chuck Hutton, if you're in here listening, said, John's going to retire one day and buy a boat. And on the back of the boat, it's going to be named Elevate. And I thought that was a perfect name for a Johnny Mac boat. So, but we're elevating the conversation. We're learning about other sports. We're being more well-rounded sports fans. All right, M1, so we love it. Brian Pumper checks in. His name is Libalco for a reason, Zander. Don't get me wrong. Embiid is a fraud, but don't talk about the number 2 most influential athlete from Akron. So one mention of LeBron, it sounds like Brian Pumper is off the rails. This guy's got consistent bad takes. Pumper, what's going on, man? We got to fix something over there. Seth Shifley checks in. What do you both think about Jack Kaiser and Riley Mills from Notre Dame for day 3 depth?
We got a Notre Dame fan. I actually like Kaiser from the standpoint.
I don't know anything about Riley Mills.
Oh, Riley Mills is a good player, good college player, really good college player. But he hurt his knee late in the season. One of the reasons they struggled a little bit, I think he hurt it in the first game. So who'd they play? They blew out somebody. Indiana. He hurt it in that game. You know what, Riley? I don't think Riley Mills is a fit for the Eagles. Jack Kaiser, I think, is a fit because he's got a day 3 guy, but really high football IQ. I think Vic would love that kid. Riley Mills, he is a grown man. He's like stronger than everybody else in college football. If you remember Justin Smith, that's who he reminds me of. He used to play with Cincinnati and San Francisco. He was just stronger than everybody else. He is a big, strong, but not very athletic guy, and I just don't think that fits what the Eagles are looking for.
We'll see what ends up happening. Seth, appreciate you checking in on the super chat. We appreciate all you guys for being here. Pumper, Anwan, and Seth, thank you guys for the super chats. Johnny Mac, great Monday show today as we inch closer to the NFL draft. Moving right along, though, brother. Your final thoughts on this Monday edition of Birds 365.
Got some F1 knowledge, even talk some hockey. Ovechkin, congratulations to him. Boy, there's a lot of haters in the world. Nobody's saying he's better than Gretzky, but when somebody makes history, give them their credit. Yeah. I mean, nobody thought.
The worst thing I saw about the Ovechkin thing was some guy who wrote an article was the political complexities.
Oh, he's Russian too. Yeah, shut up.
Congratulating Alex Ovechkin. Yeah. I'm like,
oh my God, shut up.
Yo, jerk off. There's no complexity for me to congratulate Ovechkin. I've been loving Ovechkin.
Well, you're going to say the same thing when the Eagles go to the White House. Just shut up. And somebody tried to beat Jeffrey Lurie. And
Jeffrey Lurie's answer was great.
Yeah, just shut up with that. Grow up. People disagree with you. Grow up.
I know. It's amazing. Good stuff, Johnny Mac. We appreciate you, brother. Great show today. No Zander time today. I'm down here in Florida, so I got some stuff to tend to. But we'll be back on later today, 2 to 6, the National Football Show on JAKIB Sports. Looking forward to seeing all you guys there. Johnny Mac, great show today, brother. And we'll catch up with you tomorrow morning on Birds 365, right, brother?
All right, enjoy Florida. Enjoy the heat.
Yeah, man, it's hot. I tell you what, I came down here. I'm like, holy mackerel. It was hot. I was for my nephew's baptism yesterday. I was sweating bullets. I was the godfather, so I had to clean up, but all good. Johnny Mac, thank you, man. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right, see you guys.
All right, there's Johnny Mac here on Birds 365. Just a couple thoughts real quick to let you guys know before we move on, before we get ready for Tuesday's edition of Birds 365. No giveaways this week. I'm not at home. I'm at the studio, so I can maybe do a giveaway. I just don't have it to show you or anything. I can't send it. Everybody who won last week should get theirs maybe today or tomorrow or Wednesday. They were all sent on Friday, so I was able to send everybody out their giveaways. I think I saw somebody comment in the chat that they got theirs on this morning. So if you won last week, I appreciate you. All right. And I'll get everything sent out, obviously. And we got plenty more giveaways as we get closer to the draft. The other thing I'd like to do is, once we get a draft pick in the first round, if we get one in the first round or whoever our top picks are, I'd like to get some jerseys of that player and get them out there for giveaway. So that would be pretty fun as well. Pumper checking in. Irresponsible takes from you today, Zander. Pumper, you have not made a good take in a long time. I love you, brother, and I appreciate you. But the one thing is, I don't know if I can take your takes and use them as my own. They've just been so wrong. They've been so wrong, Pump. You know, like there's my opinion, there's your opinion, and then there's objective truth. And the objective truth is your takes have been bad, brother. They've been bad, man. So maybe I had some bad takes today, but that's all right. I'm always going to have some bad takes that you don't agree with. I appreciate you, no, man. KCA says he got his giveaway. KCA, good stuff, brother. Happy you got it down here in Florida. So that's pretty good shipping, pretty quick shipping for you, man. We got that out there quick. So good stuff. But I appreciate all you guys being here today. Again, I'm going to be down in Florida all week, so I hope my setup was good. I hope my camera, my mic sounds good and everything. Tough to do the shows from outside of my studio, but we make it happen. We'll make it work. I appreciate all you guys being here again. So see you next time, everybody, on Birds 365. We'll be back tomorrow morning from 8 to 10 a.m. See you then.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.